Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Takira and I'm a dietitian that helps women to heal from recurring vaginal infections as well as chronic health conditions in general. And before I even start this video, I want to thank you all for subscribing to my channel and for supporting my content and watching me and commenting and also requesting health subliminals for me, because it does give me more content to post. And I'm very grateful that I now have 500 of you on my channel. So thank you very, very much. I'm extremely grateful. And this video is the start of my new iron deficiency anemia education series, and it was inspired by the fact that I was hospitalized while I was in Europe. I was in France for a day layover, staying at a hotel, and I had got my period on October 28th. And on the 29th, I ended up in the hospital at 4 a.m. with excruciating menstrual pain. I felt like I was literally in fucking labor. Like, it felt like labor contractions, and I never experienced that in my whole entire life. And it all traced back to iron deficiency anemia. And I'm going to explain more about the correlation between that, but basically when you're deficient in iron, you have no oxygen supply to your uterine area, and basically my whole entire womb was working really, really hard to push out the blood, which caused really, really, really severe cramps. I had really bad severe back pain that was radiating to my lower abdomen, my pelvic region, and specifically radiating but in my tailbone area and also down my legs. And the pain was so bad. It was throbbing. I was crying. I couldn't really walk. I felt like I was literally giving birth, and it was the worst pain ever. And when we got to the hospital, they ran some tests, and turns out that my iron was at a 5, which it should be at a 12. So 5 is extremely low. It's actually dangerously low to be at a 5. And they also found multiple small fibroids, but the iron deficiency anemia was like the main thing that was the issue. And it had me thinking, well, iron deficiency anemia, is it linked to vaginal health? Is it linked to other things? And I realized it's linked to vaginal health, it's linked to skin health, it's linked to your period health. And so I want to talk more about iron deficiency anemia on my page. So my first video, which is this video, is going to be on the iron recycling system, which is going to explain iron deficiency anemia and why you're dealing with it. Okay, I turned the camera around. I think this is a better angle. I don't know. But I'm first going to go over the iron recycling system and what it is. Yesterday, I was doing research the whole entire day, and I took a bunch of notes, and then I used ChatGPT to organize my notes. So I'll be looking at my computer screen. But basically, the iron recycling system is how our body recycles and uses iron so that you don't have to keep using fresh iron from food every time you eat. So the basic idea is that your body uses iron in many places, especially in red blood cells, and then it recycles it so that you don't have to rely entirely on new iron from food. So it's basically your body's way of conserving this mineral so that it can use it efficiently. Your red blood cells live to about 120 days, and then they get broken down and the iron is reused. Then most of the iron your body uses for new red blood cells comes from this internal recycling, not just your diet. So because we are constantly recycling iron, it's important that we're getting iron from our diet. I was getting a phone call. So because we're recycling, it's important that we're getting it from our diet so that we can continuously support the iron recycling system. So the places doing the recycling include macrophages, which are macrophages are these cells that clean up dead or old or non-reusable cells anymore. So the places that do the recycling include the special cleanup cells, aka the macrophages, that in your liver, your spleen, and your bone marrow. So they break down old cells and they release the iron for reuse. So it's basically it's like recycling, literally. Like, you're going through trash, you're getting rid of the things that you don't need, and then you're taking what you need and then you're reusing it. So that's basically what it does. And because your body loses only a small amount of iron each day through things like blood loss or skin cell shedding, the recycling system is crucial because we're losing small amounts of blood every single day. And the recycling system is using blood and old things to recycle to keep us in that, oh my gosh, it's hard to explain, to keep the iron that we are using efficiently. Basically, it helps to keep the whole system running efficiently. So there's a reason why this matters for women, because obviously we lose more blood than men with our monthly menstrual cycle and everything like that. So now I'm going to explain why this matters, especially for women, but particularly if you are anemic or you are suspected of being anemic. So this matters for women of reproductive age, obviously, because like what I just said, we lose more iron than men through menstruation, heavier periods, sometimes childbirth. So we are naturally at higher risk for iron deficiency. But if your iron recycling system is clogged or bogged down, like it can be worn out or not working efficiently due to inflammation, liver overload, chronic illness, or inadequate nutrition, then even if you eat iron, your body may not use it effectively. So this is why a lot of women are anemic and they're taking iron supplements and they're eating iron-rich foods and it's not working and they're still anemic. And that's what I was dealing with for years. I would take iron supplements and I would still be anemic. And so I kind of just gave up on the whole thing because to me, it didn't make sense as to why I'm taking iron pills and I'm still anemic. And with this whole hospital situation that happened, and I started doing my own research, I learned a lot about how it works, the iron recycling system, and this is exactly why a lot of women deal with anemia, even if they're taking supplements or eating correctly. But now that you know how the iron recycling system works, then you would understand that if you are eating iron, even if you're eating iron and you're still anemic, your body clearly is not working correctly as it should in regards to the iron recycling system. It's malfunctioning. So if your diet isn't giving enough iron and your body is losing more iron due to menstruation, whatever it is, or your recycling system is impaired, you can become iron deficient, which leads to anemia, which is basically low hemoglobin or low iron stores. So as a woman, it's really important that because we are menstruating every month, that we're eating iron-rich foods every single day, because we lose iron, a little bit of iron every day. So now we lose iron every single day, but then we're also losing it during our menstruation. So we're basically losing a lot of iron every month. And so it's important that we're constantly replenishing our iron stores through iron-rich food or iron supplementation. But of course, make sure that you are anemic before taking iron supplements, because you don't want to take that if you're not anemic. But iron-rich foods on a daily basis is important in general for everyone to consume. So common signs of iron deficiency anemia include fatigue, pale skin, shortness of breath, feeling cold, hair loss, brittle nails. All of those are linked to low iron. For me, I knew my iron was low, but I didn't know it was that low. Some symptoms that I was having was shortness of breath. So I would get really, really, really winded after walking up the stairs to the point where I felt really dizzy. I would hear my heartbeat in my ears all the time, especially when I'm tired or dizzy. Whenever I would smoke, I don't smoke cigarettes. Whenever I would smoke weed, I would get really, really, really lightheaded. And that wasn't normal for me at all. And I wasn't that tired, honestly. I really wasn't. But those are mainly like my symptoms, but everyone is different. So for many women, it's not just about eating enough iron. It's also about asking yourself, if you deal with iron deficiency anemia, why isn't my body recycling or using iron well? So when you're focusing on the recycling system, plus iron losses daily, plus nutrition, it gives you a fuller picture. And with the recycling system, I actually learned about this a while ago on a girl's podcast, because we weren't taught about that in school, which I'm very surprised about. We learned about iron deficiency anemia, but not the iron recycling system, which is literally the root cause of iron deficiency anemia for the most part, because there's other causes. Like it doesn't have to be that your iron recycling system is malfunctioning. It could be from just menstruation, not consuming enough iron, things like that. But when you are constantly stuck in a cycle of anemia, it most likely is your iron recycling system. So now you guys understand why this matters. And now we're going to talk about how the recycling and iron system works step by step, so that you have more of a detailed understanding of how it works. So first, iron comes into your body from food. We have heme iron, we have non-heme iron. Heme iron comes from animals, non-heme iron comes from plants. Heme iron is more bioavailable, meaning that it's easier and more easily absorbed by the body than non-heme iron, which is plant iron. So non-heme iron from plants is less efficient And so it's really important that with non-heme iron, aka plant iron, we're pairing it with vitamin C rich foods, and we're also eating a larger portion of it as well. So iron comes into your body from food, and iron is then absorbed in the upper small intestine and the duodenum, and then it's transported in the blood bound to transferrin. The transferrin is basically a protein that helps to transport your the iron in your blood. Then iron is used for making hemoglobin and red blood cells, specifically in your bone marrow. Then old red blood cells get broken down by the macrophages, which are those cells that come and they clean up everything. And they get broken down by the macrophages in the liver and in the spleen. And then the iron is released and either stored via ferritin and hemosiderin, or it's sent back into circulation to make new red blood cells. So I'll repeat that again. Old red blood cells get broken down by the macrophages in the liver and the spleen. And then once it's broken down and cleared out, the iron is released and stored. It's either stored via ferritin or the hemosiderin, or it's sent back into circulation to make new red blood cells. Your body regulates how much iron is absorbed and how much is released from storage, rather than excreting a lot of iron, because too much iron can actually be deadly. And there's a key regulator hormone called hepcidin, which tells the body to hold on to iron or to release it. So, since the body doesn't have a big mechanism for getting rid of iron, your balance depends a lot on how much you absorb and how much you lose through blood loss, menstruation, internal losses. So that basically summarizes when it comes to losses in regards to iron. So because our body doesn't have a mechanism for getting rid of iron, it is basically dependent on how much we absorb and how much we lose. So it's like its own check and balance system. So now what impairs the iron recycling system and what does this cause? So the iron recycling system can be impaired due to inflammation, due to stress, infection, chronic illnesses. All of these can impair the recycling system to the point where it's not working anymore, and it can cause you to lose too much iron or to store too much iron, which can cause different types of anemias. So when this happens, a hormone called hepcidin increases. And hepcidin is a hormone which blocks iron from being released from storage or absorbed from food. So as a result, even if you have iron stored in your body, it basically becomes locked away and unusable, which causes functional iron deficiency. So some common causes of impaired recycling include chronic inflammation due to gut issues, infections, autoimmune conditions, high stress, because stress suppresses your immune system, which then can cause inflammation and a whole cascade of events. High physical or emotional stress. So if you're dealing with emotional stress from relationships or finances or life, or physical stress from like physical illnesses or anything like that, that can cause your iron recycling system to be impaired. Poor liver function, since the liver stores and metabolizes iron. So if your liver is sluggish, then your iron recycling system may also be sluggish as well. Poor gut health, because this affects absorption and your inflammatory response, since iron is absorbed in the upper small intestine and the duodenum. So because of this, if your gut health is not intact, then it can affect the absorption of it, which can obviously cause deficiency. Hormonal imbalances can also disrupt your iron recycling system, as well as viral or bacterial infections, iron overload for supplementation, which ironically can cause inflammation and block iron use. And I've had iron overload before, which is why I stopped taking iron completely, because I felt like I can't win. I'm deficient, I take the iron, and now I'm overdosing on iron, which is crazy, but yeah. And iron overload actually has the same symptoms as iron deficiency. So I felt really anemic even while taking the iron. I was confused. When I got checked, my iron was too high. So there's that. And when the iron recycling system is impaired, your body can't get enough usable iron. So it leads to constant fatigue and weakness, pale skin and inner eyelids, shortness of breath or rapid heartbeat, brittle nails and hair loss, anxiety, low mood or brain fog, poor exercise performance, increased risk for illness, worsening of thyroid or hormonal symptoms, persistent iron deficiency. It can also lead to the thinking of just feeling really like it basically just feels like you're iron deficient, and you just don't feel good. So if the root cause of the impairment of your iron recycling system is not addressed, then this can create a cycle where iron supplements aren't effective because the body is not actually absorbing or utilizing iron correctly. So imagine you're taking an iron supplement and your recycling system is either blocking it from being absorbed, or it's literally just like your body's just not even using it. So it's kind of like taking a sugar pill or something. It's like, it doesn't work. So the goal is not to just increase your iron intake through supplements or through food, but it's to support your iron recycling system by itself, so that way your body can actually use and recycle iron as it's supposed to, which will lower inflammation, balance your hormones, and also improve absorption naturally. So some key points for women as to why you might be missing the mark when it comes to healing your iron deficiency anemia. Number one, if you have heavy periods, frequent blood donation, or hidden internal bleeding from gut issues, you may lose more iron than normal. Also, if you have uterine fibroids, that can cause you to have more heavy bleeding as well. If inflammation is high from chronic illness, infections, or gut issues, then hepcidin may go up and block iron release or absorption. So hepcidin is going to block iron from being released to help support your iron levels. It's also going to block iron from being absorbed to help support your iron levels. So basically, you're taking an iron pill for no reason. That's not doing anything if your inflammation is high. If your liver, spleen, or macrophage system is overloaded due to things like chronic disease or fatty liver, the recycling may be less efficient. If your diet is low in absorbable iron, so basically like heme iron, if it's low in that or has a lot of inhibitors. Inhibitors are basically things that block things from being absorbed. So things like tea, matcha, coffee, calcium, that's high at meals. These are inhibitors to iron, so they block the absorption of iron and your absorption drops. But this doesn't mean that you can't have tea, matcha, coffee, or calcium. I'm going to explain that later on. If you're vegetarian or vegan and you only rely on non-heme iron, which is the plant iron, which is less efficient, that can also be a hindrance as well, because you need to ensure that you have absorption enhancers like vitamin C goes really well with iron to help with the absorption, that you're not consuming the inhibitors with the meals. If you have other nutrient deficiencies like B12 and folate, your red blood cell production may suffer even if you have iron. So B vitamins play a really big role also in iron deficiency anemia. And I just saw a post on Threads about this girl saying that the healthcare system doesn't teach enough about B vitamins and iron, which is really, really true. And after the age of 50, you are supposed to be taking a B complex because our bodies no longer produce it on its own. So if you have a parent that's over the age of 50 or any relatives or friends, whatever, make sure that they're taking a B complex. I literally cannot talk in this video. I think because I'm still tired coming back from Europe, and I woke up really early today. My cats woke me up, and then I'm also a little bit still short of breath because of the anemia, and my allergies are bothering me because of my cats. So it's a lot. So I'm sorry, but just bear with me. Let's see what's next. Okay, so even if you're taking an iron supplement, or even if your doctor tells you to take an iron supplement, it's not just about that, because if you don't address the absorption, the recycling, and the loss, you may continue to be anemic. So now we're up to the point of the video. We're going to be talking about natural nutrition and lifestyle tips to support your iron recycling system and to avoid anemia. So number one, eating iron-rich foods. So again, heme iron is the best absorbed. Non-heme is not the best absorbed, but you can still consume it for iron. Just pair it with vitamin C. So heme iron comes from meats. So lean red meat, poultry, especially dark meat. If your meats can be organic and grass-fed, the better, so that you're not consuming excess hormones and things added to the meats. If your budget can afford that, then don't worry about it. But it is better to get organic grass-fed meats. Organ meats specifically are really nutrient dense with like multiple different vitamins and minerals, and organ meats in themselves can actually be used as a multivitamin. That's why you have companies like Ancestral where they make organ multivitamins supplements, because organ meats like liver and spleen and kidneys, they're really rich in iron and they're really nutrient dense. So organ meats like liver, kidney, spleen, whatever, oysters, clams, mussels, sardines, tuna, egg yolks, and bone marrow. All of these are really great sources of heme iron. And with heme iron, with any iron-rich foods in general, always make sure that you have a vitamin C source with it. So that can look like you eating, steak with bell peppers, or steak with broccoli, or I'm thinking of other examples, egg yolks with an orange on the side. Like, it doesn't matter. But that's gonna be really important. For non-heme iron, plant-based, and also when you combine these two irons together, it's also better absorbed that way as well. But lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, tofu, pumpkin seeds, quinoa, spinach, Swiss chard, kale, tahini, which is a sesame paste, fortified cereals and fortified grains and gluten products will typically have iron in it. Oatmeal and dried fruit like apricots and raisins. These are all non-heme iron sources. Of course, there's probably more, but just look that up on your own. And like I said, combining non-heme iron with vitamin C rich foods to boost absorption. So combining the plant-based iron with citrus, bell pepper, strawberries, kiwi, pineapple, broccoli, and you can do the same thing with the heme iron. The heme iron can be absorbed without vitamin C, but it's still better with vitamin C, so it doesn't really matter. So eat your iron-rich foods. What this can look like, I'll try to give an example. So let's say for breakfast, you have egg yolks with steak, so steak and eggs. You also have steak and eggs with broccoli or with bell peppers. That is iron, with oh my gosh, I cannot talk in this video. That is iron with vitamin C, right? So the steak and eggs give you protein. The eggs also has healthy fats. And then you want to add a carbohydrate. So the bell peppers and the broccoli, that can add little carbohydrates, but you do need more carbohydrates since you want all your meals to have protein, carbs, and healthy fats. So now you can add maybe a piece of multigrain sourdough toast, which sourdough toast is actually really great for people who are anemic. I forgot there was a reason. I actually have the reason on my computer somewhere. Let me actually check. I forgot why. Oh, I don't want to explain this incorrectly, but it has to do with, oh my gosh, I forgot. Okay, I forgot, whatever, it doesn't matter. But either way, sourdough is great. So like sourdough multigrain toast with steak, eggs, and bell peppers or broccoli. That way you have a fibrous carbohydrate, you have protein, and then if you cook everything in avocado oil, you also have some extra healthy fats as well. But if your eggs are grass-fed eggs, or grass-fed, what am I saying? Pasture-raised eggs. Pasture-raised eggs, then that can also provide extra healthy fats as well. If we use grass-fed butter, that can also provide extra healthy fats as well. Either way, that's an example of an iron-rich breakfast that has your fibrous carbs, your protein, and also your healthy fats. 2, you want to avoid absorption blockers at meals. So things that can block the absorption of iron include tea, matcha, coffee, and high calcium foods. And like I said, they can inhibit iron absorption when taken with iron-rich meals. So you want to consume these 2 hours after your meals so that it doesn't interfere with the iron absorption at your meals. High phytate foods, also known as phytic acid, can block mineral absorption. Like it can block iron, zinc, and calcium. Phytates are found in whole grains like wheat bran, oats, beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, and some raw vegetables. And so these foods are still healthy and you can still consume them, but if you soak them, ferment them, or if they're sprouted, or if you cook them, this can reduce the phytate levels, making the minerals more bioavailable. So for example, let's say with the iron-rich breakfast, the steak, the eggs, the multigrain sourdough toast, and the vegetables, whatever. For the multigrain sourdough, I remember now, because sourdough is fermented, it decreases the amount of phytates in them, so it doesn't block the iron absorption as much as it would if it was not fermented, like regular multigrain bread. So because sourdough is fermented, that's exactly why. So with the phytate-rich foods, if they're soaked, sprouted, fermented, or cooked, this reduces the phytate levels and makes the minerals like iron more bioavailable. So that's why it's good to have sourdough if you are iron deficient, especially if it's like a multigrain sourdough, because phytates are primarily found in whole grains. So multigrain sourdough, your pasture-raised eggs, or your I keep thinking grass-fed eggs. I'm thinking grass-fed butter. Your pasture-raised eggs, your sourdough multigrain, your steak, your broccoli, your bell peppers, and then also using the avocado oil would be like a good breakfast to have where you're not blocking. So you can have that for breakfast. And then 2 hours later, you can have a tea, you can have a coffee, you can have a matcha, you can have a high calcium foods. I don't recommend coffee and matcha or anything caffeinated on an empty stomach because this can actually increase your cortisol levels. And when your cortisol is spiked, your blood sugar is spiked. When your cortisol is spiked, you have more inflammation. You also feel more irritable, more anxious, you feel more tired, and you get that mid-afternoon slump or that crash in the middle of the day where you feel really tired and exhausted at like 12 or 1 p.m. And then if your cortisol spiked over time, this leads to also chronically elevated blood sugar over time, which can lead to insulin resistance, which can lead to you obviously having diabetes or prediabetes, storing fat in your stomach, and slowing your metabolism down. So I recommend consuming caffeinated drinks after a meal, not on an empty stomach. If you like to start your morning with like a warm elixir, like a warm drink, you can consider things like golden milk or cacao. You can also ask ChatGPT for some milk tea lattes or a decaf, of course, or some herbal lattes or like herbal elixirs that you can have first thing in the morning so that you can drink something warm to get your digestion up and running before having breakfast. And then 2 hours after breakfast, you can have tea or coffee or matcha or high calcium foods. Me personally, what I'm going to be doing now is I'm starting off my morning with a cacao elixir. Americans can call it cacao. I'm Grenadian, so we drink cocoa tea, which is basically raw cocoa, and we put it in milk and we add like spices and sweetener. So for me, I'm going to be drinking cocoa with full fat coconut milk for my hormones. It's also dairy free, and high calcium can block iron absorption. And so coconut milk doesn't have as much calcium as regular milk, so it's better, and it's also full fat, which is good for your hormones. So I'm going to be consuming cocoa, or for you guys, it can be cacao with full fat coconut milk, some honey, some spices like ginger and turmeric and cinnamon and nutmeg. And I'm also going to be sweetening it with blackstrap molasses because blackstrap molasses is really high in iron, and it's actually used back in the day for people who had iron deficiency. So make sure that it's organic blackstrap molasses. You can use that to sweeten it to make your own like morning elixir that's high in iron, and that way you're getting some iron first thing in the morning. If you're sensitive to iron, then be mindful because it may make you nauseous. I'm not sure. I haven't tried molasses yet, but I'm assuming it might make you nauseous. I'm not sure. So I don't know. I'll let you guys know. But that's what I'm going to be doing first thing in the morning. So I'll have my morning elixir with my herbs, and then I'll have my breakfast. And then 2 hours later, if I want tea or coffee that has caffeine or matcha or whatever, then I'm going to have that. So that's how you would basically think of eating when it comes to healing your iron deficiency anemia and supporting your iron recycling system. So another thing to be mindful of is the fact that eggs can also block iron absorption because eggs contain phosphoproteins that can bind iron, but this is only an issue in certain situations, not all the time. So you can eat eggs in the same meal as meat and iron-rich veggies, like I just gave you that example before. The only time eggs lower iron absorption is when you were only eating plant-based iron. So let's say you were only eating eggs with spinach with no heme iron, then that's when eggs can lower your iron absorption, or when you eat eggs in the same meal as an iron supplement. So that's really important to know. I feel like the best time to take an iron supplement is 2 hours after dinner and before bed, because it gives you more food freedom and flexibility throughout the day, because iron can be what's the word, inhibited by so many different things like matcha, coffee, tea, high calcium, and phytates and all these things. And I feel like if you take iron in the middle of the day, it can kind of hinder how you eat and what you eat and when you eat and all these things, and it can cause more stress. And eating iron on an empty stomach can really fuck you up and make you nauseous. Some people can tolerate it. I personally can't whenever I've had iron without eating too much. I've thrown up a handful of times from doing that. So I personally cannot handle iron on an empty stomach. If you can, it's actually really good to do that 2 hours before breakfast. If you can't handle it, I would do it 2 hours after dinner before bed, because our iron recycling system also works the best and is healing when we're sleeping, because our bodies heal when we're sleeping. So for me, it makes the most sense to take it 2 hours after dinner before bed without eating anything, because I ate the whole entire day. So number 3 is, just to recap so far, number 1, eat iron-rich foods. Number 2, avoid absorption blockers at meals. Number 3, ensure you're getting support nutrients. So always combine your iron-rich foods with vitamin C for better absorption. Also vitamin A-rich foods, B12, folate, they're all important for red blood cell production. Copper, zinc, and magnesium, because iron metabolism is linked to other minerals, especially copper, which helps to metabolize and use stored iron properly. Ensure balanced intake of these minerals, because supplementing iron alone can worsen symptoms if other cofactors like copper are low. So that's also really important. So you'll get these minerals from like whole grains, your poultry. So you don't have to like really worry about like where to get them from. Like vitamin A comes from like red fruits and vegetables, or like sweet potatoes and things like that. B vitamins come from grains and poultry and meat, and nuts and seeds. Same thing with folate, because folate is a B vitamin. So as long as you're getting all those in your meals in general, you're pretty much good to go. Let's see. And zinc is also really important. But what's important to know is that zinc can block iron absorption, but only in high doses. So if it's 20 to 50 plus milligrams of zinc, this can block iron absorption, but something as little as 5 milligrams will not block iron absorption. Number 4, you want to minimize your losses. So if you have heavy menstrual bleeding, you want to get to the root cause of that by talking to your healthcare provider about cycle support, herbal remedies, iron infusions, or hormone testing to see why you may have heavy menstrual bleeding, or getting checked for fibroids, PCOS, things like that. Because you want to get to the root cause of the heavy bleeding so that you're not continuously being stuck in iron deficiency anemia. You want to check for gut bleeding or hidden losses like ulcers, IBS, or hemorrhoids, because obviously if you're internally bleeding, then you're losing blood also. Then you want to also track symptoms like blood in your stool, if you have like fissures or GI bleeds, anything like that, unexplained fatigue, pale skin, or dizziness, because these may signal continued blood loss, as they're all signs of anemia. Number 5, support your liver and inflammation control. I feel like the best way to support your liver is to either limit or not drink alcohol at all. Consume a lot of water that has electrolytes. So water, not just regular water, but water-rich fruits and vegetables, coconut water, cold-pressed juices, bone broth, homemade popsicles with no added sugar. These are all different ways of supporting your hydration. So, and also non-caffeinated teas, but specifically herbal teas that are good for your liver, such as burdock root, dandelion, milk thistle, schisandra berry. These are all really great for your liver. So you can find like a liver tea somewhere, or drink any of those herbs separately, or just continuously drinking enough fluids to support your liver. But always talk with somebody like your healthcare provider before taking any herbs to make sure that there's no drug interaction. We can also support your liver and control your inflammation through good sleep, managing your stress levels, anti-inflammatory diet with whole foods and omega-3s, and also liver health supports iron storage and recycling. So the better you take care of your liver, the better your iron recycling system works. So also something externally that you can do would look like castor oil packs that supports your liver really well. Number 6, boost your recycling system. So you can help to support your iron recycling system through regular moderate exercise, which improves circulation, general metabolism, good gut health and microbiome, since absorption and loss can be affected by gut issues like leaky gut or SIBO or parasites. Consider getting periodic checks of your iron panel. So this will look like getting a CBC, which is a complete blood count iron lab, where they check for your ferritin, which is your iron stores, your transferrin saturation, your hemoglobin, your serum iron, and your total iron binding capacity. And you can also look at markers of inflammation like CRP. CRP is a lab marker that tests your inflammation. So this will also tell you how much inflammation you have in your body, since inflammation does block proper iron use. And number 7, lastly, use supplementation smart if it's needed. So if your iron deficiency is confirmed, take iron under medical supervision, since too much iron is harmful and can also cause constipation. Take iron on an empty stomach if you can tolerate it, and with vitamin C, and avoid taking it with inhibitors like caffeine or calcium. And always check for the cause of the loss or poor recycling before just supplementing blindly, because like you've learned from this video, if you're just supplementing blindly without knowing why, you can be taking it for no reason. So how can women check for causes of iron loss or poor recycling before supplementing? Number 1, getting your labs done, so asking for the full iron panel, and include the CRP, which is not usually included in that. 2, if your ferritin is low but inflammation is high, it may be a storage issue, as in like in your iron recycling system, not a lack of iron. If hemoglobin is low but ferritin is normal or high, it could indicate an iron recycling blockage, not a lack of iron. You can talk to a provider about hormone testing if you have heavy or painful periods. So this can look like getting a that also does work as well. A GI map test can be helpful, a Dutch test, a HTMA test, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis test, which basically you test your hair strands for your mineral status, which iron is mineral. All of those can help towards seeing why you may have heavy bleeding, or painful period as well. High estrogen can also worsen iron loss, because of fibroids and things like that. I'm making a whole other video on the correlation between iron deficiency, anemia, and painful periods. So that's coming up soon. You can also run stool tests or see a GI specialist if you suspect internal bleeding or poor gut absorption. That's a GI map test. You can have your thyroid levels checked, because hypothyroidism is when your thyroid is sluggish and under its malfunctioning, and this can impair your red blood cell production and slow your iron utilization. You can get tested for B12, folate, copper, and zinc. These cofactors must be in balance with iron, or else iron alone won't fix the problem. And if you take iron supplements before and still feel tired or anemic, it may be a clue that the issue is absorption or recycling, not your intake of iron. So lastly, do other minerals play a role in the system? Yes. So copper is essential for the enzyme ceruloplasmin, which helps release stored iron from the tissues into the bloodstream. So copper is important, or it's needed for the enzyme called ceruloplasmin, and this enzyme helps to release stored iron from tissues into the bloodstream. So having a good amount of copper is important in your diet. Without enough copper, iron can build up in storage and stay stuck and unusable, leading to anemia symptoms even when things look normal, or your levels look normal. Zinc and magnesium also support normal enzyme function, red blood cell production, and hormone balance, which indirectly affects your iron status. And lastly, to conclude everything, a true iron healing protocol includes checking all contributing minerals, not just supplementing iron in isolation. So because these minerals all work together, you want to make sure that you are getting, that your mineral status is up to check. So that would look like getting an HTMA test, an HTMA test to check your mineral status. And if you are deficient in any minerals, this can look like you taking or making your own mineral mocktails every single day. The minerals are really, really, really important because they basically control your whole body and how it functions. So to conclude, the iron recycling system is really about making sure that your mineral levels are intact and that you are looking for the root cause If you feel like your iron recycling system is malfunctioning, it's important that you're looking at losses from what's causing you to have iron losses, as well as your nutrition, and also if you have any inhibitors in the way. So nutrition, getting to the source of your iron loss, and also preventing iron inhibitors in your diet from blocking the iron absorption, and you're pretty much good to go. Over the course of the next week, I will be releasing some more videos on the correlation between iron deficiency anemia and your skin health and your vaginal health and your period health and a bunch of other different things. So if you resonate with any of those, definitely make sure to stay tuned and to watch. But otherwise, this concludes today's video. I feel like this video, I tripped up on my words so many times. I don't know why I can't talk right now, but I hope you guys understand the full message and the context of what I'm trying to explain to you guys, and that you have a understanding now of why you may be anemic and how to go about fixing the anemia if you're taking iron pills and things that are not working. So I hope this helped you all today, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.